Thanks everyone for joining us here. I'm here to talk about Arizona Eagle. It's a past producing, high grade gold and silver project in mining friendly Yavapai County, Arizona. Thank you for your time and thank you for joining me today. The story is very simple. It's very, we believe, very strategic, and I'll get into it. So here's where we're located. You drive approximately 2 hours north on Highway 17, which is a paved four-lane highway. You come to a town called Dewey Humboldt, and a town of 300 people. And you go left, and approximately 3 miles down a very well-maintained dirt road, you get to our project, which was last in production in 1993 when it was closed, well, for a couple reasons. Um, in 1993, around 1990, in the early 90s, Magma Copper, which last held this project, which was spun out of Newmont Mining in 1987 to monetize their copper projects, went looking for a gold project. And this is the gold project they acquired. So they were mining it actually, and they were sending the ore for a number of reasons, but also partly because of, they could use the quartz silica, the flux for flux in their smelter, but also as a high grade gold mine. And they were ultimately acquired by BHP Billiton for $3 billion. And of course, everyone knows BHP went on to build this huge copper and international mining company. But this project got left behind and it got put into a geologist was able to acquire it and held it for 40 years before we were able to come to terms on the deal approximately 18 months ago, and then go about consolidating the district. And what's really exciting for us is the key asset and the key trend of this mesothermal precious metals system is on private ground. So that means our permitting process is more straightforward with respect to surface disturbance. We were able to get our drill permit in 48 hours. We've got water wells being drilled. We've established 10 drill pads on our project, and we've rehabilitated the road. So access is very smooth and very easy. As I mentioned, it's approximately 2 hours drive from Phoenix. So we acquired this past producing mine. It had a history of production. In fact, this whole district was discovered after the California Gold Rush going back to 1870. And we are the first company in the 150-year history to consolidate the district in such a large land package. We've got a historic resource estimate. It's not 43-101. It was done by Derry Mitchener Booth and Wall in the mid 80s. That was a Toronto outfit, and actually Dr. Derry is in the Canadian Mining Hall of Fame. It was done at a gold price of $360 per ounce gold. So a much lower gold price environment. And as a result of that lower gold price environment, the cutoff grade used to come to that estimate was high. So it was almost 7 grams per ton. It was done at 6.8 grams per ton. So if it wasn't 6.8 grams per ton, it didn't make it into the resource. So for us, we believe the opportunity is to potentially expand that resource by using a lower cutoff grade, more in line with gold prices being at $4,500 per ounce. And we suspect that that'll be in the 2 gram per ton range. So there's a possibility to expand the resource that way. But also because we have 12 past producing mines along the structures we've assembled on our private ground, plus the BLM ground, but primarily on the private ground, there's many opportunities. There's many past producing mines, and therefore there's significant opportunity to expand the resource along strike in both directions and also in depth. So I'll get to that in a minute. But really, it's expanding this resource, showing it's bigger. It's relatively shallow. It starts at surface. It's only been explored to a depth of approximately 400 meters. It's open at depth. In fact, we've got a drill hole at depth that shows 1.4 meters at 19 grams, which is a very nice intersect, nice mining width, and nice grade. Um, So that's really the opportunity for us is to show that this resource is much bigger. It's in an area where you can mine. It's mining friendly. Infrastructure is second to none, and we believe there's significant upside from here. We've only been trading under the symbol AZEM for a short period of time since March 31st. So we're in a relatively new story as well. This is a picture actually from the BHP 1996 annual report. BHP actually reclaimed the mine again during a period of low gold prices. The team, myself, I've mentioned, Clyde, VP Exploration, 40 plus years experience in the industry. Connor, our corporate secretary from the Weirfolds law firm. Um, Eric, our chief financial officer, many years of, and he's also CPA experience in the financial industry. But also John Barber, who's a technical advisor, and he's local to Arizona and the Prescott area, about half an hour from the mine. Has spent 40 years in the industry. He's worked with companies like Arizona Mining. He worked for Freeport at Grasberg, as well as being a senior technical person at Amex. So he's got a very deep mining background, 40 plus years, and very senior roles. So we're happy to have him. He's close to the site, and again, rounds out our team. From the board, Mark Pace, similar background to me. We both went to Queens. He did the engineering school, worked in capital markets for over 15 years in equity research, and also been responsible for founding some mining companies as well during his tenure. It's fantastic mine evaluator, and really was key to bringing this project to the team. Don is a lawyer in Arizona, critical to the board, just understanding all the permitting, um, the law behind the permitting and all that sort of stuff. So she's been phenomenal. Rick, similar background to me, geology, MBA, investment banking background, financing mining companies. And Mike rounds out the board. Also a TD investment banker over 30 years, and not from a mining per se background, but from a business background, working for companies like the Stronach Group, LexisNexis, and a variety of other positions. So also glad to have him on the team. Significant insider ownership. So over 54% of the shares are owned by insider and management. We've invested significant funds, approximately $6 million of our own money, to get our shares. Our shares are escrowed for 3 years. So, yeah, it's a very tight float, and the rest of the float is primarily from high net worth investors that we know from the Canadian capital markets. Back to the historic estimate that was done by Derry, Michener, Booth and Wall in the early 80s, early to mid 80s. The historic estimate, again, this is 0.34 ounces per ton for 11.7 grams per ton gold. There's an additional 5 million ounces of silver in the estimate. This is how we're required to report this estimate according to the standards. So there's a significant amount of geological potential in that, whereas approximately 180,000 of those ounces are in the proven and possible categories. So for us, as I'll show you, the opportunity is to both verify and expand that resource through a number of methodologies, including lowering the cutoff grade to see how much gold we can bring in the envelope, but also expanding it along strike and along depth. So as I mentioned, we've really assembled a district here. All the light blue claims, those are Bureau of Land Management, BLM claims, available for mineral exploration and development. But the brown, the white, and the green here are all private patented ground that we can explore and develop. It's just owning the ground, being patented ground. You don't require the plan of operations as would be required with the BLM. So it's just a simpler process. As I'm not sure if I mentioned, but we got our drill permit in 48 hours. So it's just a simpler process. You still, of course, have to get all your appropriate permits if this was to be a mine again, federal permits and so on. But with respect to it being on private ground, the timeline arguably be 2 to 3 years shorter as a result of being on private ground. As I mentioned, this red area is the historic estimate, and you can see all the pickaxes here indicating past producing mines, small shafts. They're all over the property. And in fact, there's approximately 12 past producing mines along strike. From the bottom of the brown to the top of the green, that's approximately 5 kilometers. So in total, we've assembled on private ground approximately 8 kilometers of strike of past producing mines that have only been mined down to shallow depths, very high grade, starting at surface in many cases. As you can see, they just drop a shaft on them, and they typically mine the oxides down to 100, 150 meters, but leaving all the sulfides at depth. This Iron King mine produced to a kilometer of depth and produced nearly 1 million ounces of gold and nearly 1 billion pounds of zinc. So we see the opportunity here with this being approximately 800,000 ounces to expand that resource in all directions and to show that it's much bigger. It's in a place we know you can mine, and the infrastructure is second to none. We have access to talent, we have access to power and water, and all those things that are critical to putting a mine back into production. This is a zoom in of that red area, just showing the Sooner shaft here. This was the shaft that was sunk in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, and also mined by Magma Copper, ultimately acquired by BHP. This shaft was sunk to approximately 400 meters, 1,450 feet. But you can see we've done quite a bit of surface sampling. We've got all these fantastic gold grades at surface and all these past producing mines. So again, the opportunity here is to expand this resource in all directions and show that it's bigger and it's better. The green area here, moving to the northeast, are high-grade silver mines that were last mined in the early 1900s. We've entered, the reason they're green is because we've entered into an option to acquire them. The recent financing we announced will, the use of proceeds, part of the use of proceeds will be to purchase these mines. But there's three of them. And we sampled them as well, just to, obviously do our due diligence. And we're getting extremely high grade silver. We're seeing samples near the shaft here that we're returning half ounce per ton gold, 344 grams silver, 861 grams silver, 300 grams, 500. So very high grade. In fact, the historic record shows a record of a mining. The mining grade at the time was recorded at 20 ounces to the ton. So for us, again, it's going in, showing there's more there. They're only mined to, this is a picture of the Silver Belt mine up here in the early 1930s. But here's what I was showing in long section. You see that McCabe historic estimate and these silver acquisitions, they're only mined to very, very shallow depths. And once they started to get into the sulfides, which would be easy to recover for us, or simple, it's simple milling and likely carbon and pulp. But the point is it's open at depth. It's open on strike. It's open in all directions, extending the known historic estimate that was done in the mid 80s and mined until most recently, 1990, 91, 93, when BHP was acquired Magma Copper and then reclaimed the mine. So again, California mine here, mine to a shallow depth, Little Kicker mine to a shallow depth. Again, open in all directions, but starting with this incredibly high grade historic estimate of over 800,000 ounces. Again, at a 6.8 gram per ton cutoff. So we're seeing the opportunity to expand that resource simply by drilling it and lowering the cutoff, but seeing this district scale opportunity where there's the potential for many multiples of this resource off a paved highway on private ground in a mining friendly jurisdiction in the United States of America, which is very mining friendly these days. So looking at the geophysics we did here, we had this really interesting anomaly, which our geos are interpreting as potentially a VMS deposit. We're in a known VMS belt. This is a VMS deposit, and that stands for volcanogenic massive sulfide, going back to about 1.5 billion years ago when This was all under seawater. That's a long time ago. But we're seeing these incredibly high grades down here, almost 30% copper, an ounce per ton gold. This is from surface, taken from surface samples, on top of a very, very highly conductive body. So this is something we'll have to follow up. We've got so many targets here to drill. As I mentioned, we've got 8 kilometers of private ground to drill on the high grade gold and silver um, targets. So there's just a lot to do here. We've assembled a huge district, and yeah, it's really about getting the story out at this point. We've only been listed since March 31st. So getting this most recently announced financing completed in the coming weeks and driving forward, getting the drills turning again, and starting to tell the next phase of the story, which we're working on. That's really it for me. It's a simple story. We're high grade. We're a past producing mine. We've got significant expansion potential, great infrastructure, and district scale.
You just make it sound so easy, and I'm still so blown away since London that you had a permit in 48 hours. I mean, Kevin, still blown away by this.
Well, we hired the right people, I guess, is really the point of it. So
That's
we're good
key.
at getting good people. I think that's really the key.
That is. Okay, so Kevin, one of the most interesting parts of your recent drill results was confirming mineralization beyond where historic mining and exploration essentially stopped. So internally, how important was that moment for your technical team in terms of validating the larger district scale thesis here? And how differently does that change the way you now look at the potential size of the system moving forward?
That's a really good question. And thank you for bringing it up because I didn't hit on it in my presentation and I should have. So, right in here, just outside this resource is where we put the first 6 holes. And as you point out, you know, when you start drilling in here, I mean, there's still a lot of gold left behind because
Yeah,
according to the estimate, only about, we believe around 70,000 ounces were mined based on the record. So it's leaving a lot of gold behind, but there's still so many underground workings that you just have to be careful that you don't that you don't hit the old workings.
yeah,
And so yeah, so we kind of clipped it in hole number one, but in hole number two, it was really, yeah, it's really important. It was a big discovery for us because there's a fault here, which we know from the record, the geological record. We wanted to drill outside of this area, also to show that it is open, as we point out. And we did hit the zone, but 30 meters to the north of where they were last mining it. So they didn't know where it was, and for us, finding it in our second hole, 30 meters to the north um, was really, a huge aha moment for us because we're like, okay, well, now we found it again. And, proving to us as well that, and it's hard not to believe given that there's mines skewered or they're scattered all over this, 5 kilometers that I'm showing here that we
right.
wouldn't hit it again. So, yeah, it was a huge moment, and again, kudos to the team for being able to target and hit this target down at roughly 350 meters.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge right there. You also recently moved to consolidate three past producing high grade silver mines that extend the mineralized corridor by
Yeah,
what was it, 50%. From an
yeah,
investor standpoint, how significant could that consolidation become if future drilling actually starts demonstrating continuity between McCap and the broader Eagle Silver trend?
yeah. I mean, that's we'll see what the drill result shows us, or the drill shows us. But as you can see, we're calling this area on the left the gold zone, and then the area on the right, as you're moving northeast, the silver
Yeah.
zone. So we felt like we had an opportunity to do a deal. Again, we've been putting together a lot of different parties and spending approximately $8 million consolidating the area.
Mhm.
So we had the opportunity to get these projects. So we think we did a good deal. It's hard to
Yeah.
say what will be there. I mean, it's we're hoping, as you point out, that it is continuous and that it just provides a lot more upside to the shareholders. Certainly, it looks like from the fact that they're producing here, that
Mhm.
there could be a lot more mineralization in this area, which would be phenomenal for shareholders.
Absolutely. So, how much confidence then do you currently have that the mineralized system continues meaningfully below the historic mining depths?
Oh, I'm very confident.
Unpack that a little bit further.
Oh, well, you know, it didn't start at surface, and this is a mesothermal epithermal system. So we know that these systems can go, well, and we know they go into the kilometers. It's a matter of how many. I mean, 10 kilometers is of course the potential, but
Yep.
I am, you know, I can never say, 100%, but again, this is only to a very, very shallow depth, as you can see here. It's only mined a very shallow depth. So I have an extreme amount of confidence that since it started from below, it would make a lot of sense that there'd be a lot more mineralization in here. They tend to get higher grade at depth, so look, we're optimistic, but again, you have to show it through drilling.
Perfect. So, what would you say the key geological difference between the gold structure and the copper rich VMS targets on the property are?
Well, different systems. The copper target is Proterozoic, much older, like over 1 billion years old. Volcanogenic massive sulfide target. This structure here is, they call it laramide orogeny. It's really when the Rocky Mountains were being formed, that
Right.
tectonic event that caused a lot of compression and so on. That's what this structure, the McCabe structure, if you will, is interpreted as
Mhm.
a much younger mesothermal type of system. So different events separated by over 1 billion years, but both extremely productive.
Okay, so a lot of juniors talk about optionality, but Arizona Eagle now has gold, they have silver, they have multiple parallel structures, historic underground development, and a fully funded drill program all happening at once. So, as you sit there and Kevin today, what do you believe has the potential to become the real catalyst that fundamentally changes the scale of investor attention on this company over the next, I don't know, 6 to 12 months, we'll say?
Well, we're going to start drilling, the silver projects. That will be one, and we'll
Mhm.
see see how that goes. I suspect, we'll see some interesting things. And then there's some other things we're working on here with our mining engineers that I'm not, able to talk about today, but we're talking about daylighting, strategies of daylight value, within the historic estimate that hopefully will have some more fulsome disclosure in the coming weeks.
Okay, well then let's just touch briefly on community. So you're in Arizona. It is so concentrated there. Tell us a little bit about the community that maybe an investor hasn't learned on the internet about the jurisdiction before.
Yeah, like where we are, it's not concentrated at all. It's really, rolling hills and back country. It's pretty vast. It's vast open space essentially.
Great.
Um, Huey Dumboldt is a town of 300 people.
Mhm.
So it's a small town, historic mining town, and they have the quaint old buildings that you would see in an old mining town. The people are very mining friendly, and where we are, a project you don't see it from the road. You drive back about, again, the project about probably 4 kilometers from the road, maybe
Mhm.
further. So you don't see it. You wouldn't see it, and it's just open space. We don't have
Wow.
cacti or anything like that. We're north of the cacti. We're a bit north. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's a really, the topography is not, there's rolling hills, but it's
Mhm.
not terribly challenging topography.
That's
I
good.
mean, yeah, so it's really the infrastructure. I mean, we couldn't have put it in a better place. So thank you, Mother Nature.
Yes, thank you, Mother Nature. So there is so much history there. Kevin, how easy is it to use the old mine data for today's exploration work?
Excellent question. It wasn't easy. It was very challenging, but we had Ben on our team did a phenomenal job of digitizing 1,600 data points from underground channel sampling and underground drilling.
Hmm.
To create this. It's you can't. This is just a picture of it, but we have it in 3 dimensions, and he's done a phenomenal job of putting all the, past where it was stoked out, and where what was left, and putting all this data in there. So of course we don't. It's not. Not every spot is drilled, but from what the data we have, it's been incredibly useful for targeting. And I think that's why we were able to have success so early on, and hitting that zone and showing that it was open. We found the zone again. That was a result of Ben's work and helping us target that area. So it's been
Okay.
very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only imagine. Now, I know that um, there is a lot that is actually happening over in Arizona right now. And there's actually not a lot of companies we hear about that is on private land. So for those that are just learning about the difference between private land and not private land, can you explain that just a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, just high level.
High level.
When you're working with BLM ground, I mean, it's fine, and we have a lot of BLM ground. But you're working with the Bureau of Land Management as opposed to it being your own ground. So,
Okay.
for example, like to go on your own ground and put in a drill pad, we can do that. I mean, we don't need any, special permits for that, really. Just go in
Mhm.
and work on our own ground. Um, but if that was BLM ground, and say we were going to disturb more than a certain number of acreage or whatever,
Yep.
it's all doable. It's just that you would have to apply for, plan of operations. You'd have to do certain studies, and you'd have to check a bunch of boxes, which is fine. But that takes time. It takes time to do those things when you're working with BLM. It's all fine, but it's more of a process than just doing it yourself on the ground that you own, and have the right to do, right? It's not someone else's ground that you have a right to explore.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
That makes
essentially
sense.
it.
That, yeah, sort of clarifies a little bit more. So how active are larger mining companies currently in the Arizona exploration market?
Oh, I mean, it's a hugely, I mean, as I
I
showed you from early on, well, of course, there's BHP and Rio Tinto working on Resolution, which is going to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest in North America, probably one of the biggest mines in North America, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a multi-billion dollar project they've been working on getting permits there for quite a while, and it's moving forward. So that's very encouraging. But it's a mining friendly state with a history of mining. Obviously, one of the biggest copper producers, historically, in the world. So very mining friendly, of course. Being on private ground, although it's still a mining friendly state, it's always best to have your project on private ground if you can. So
Fair enough.
that's a
Yeah.
huge one for us. So a mining friendly area. Our area has a history of mining. And as well as our project was a mine, right? So,
Yes.
so we're not reinventing the wheel. What we're doing is really taking a very interesting and exciting high grade resource as our anchor, and applying modern technology, modern exploration, and modern methods to ideally expand that historic estimate, and
Mhm.
in all directions, and also by, as I mentioned, lowering the cutoff grade and showing that there's a lot more gold there. And it's our view that if we can demonstrate that, we don't, our market cap today is around 50 million Canadian. So we're not being paid compared to the other stories out there that have arguably not as high grade, are in areas that the infrastructure is much more challenging. We are not, we are off a paved highway. So it's clear to me that we're not being paid for our 800,000 ounces. So it's our job to de-risk this asset, to show the
Yep.
gold is there. And I believe as we do that, that's where investors will be rewarded is, well, we believe it's there. It was mined. It's got three shafts. Just the McCabe mine has three shafts on it. So the opportunity is to show it's bigger, to show that it's a highly valuable asset that can be put in production in
Right.
a relatively timely manner, and
Okay.
that's where we'll drive value for shareholders.
Amazing. Kevin, this has been such a fascinating presentation, and just to learn more about that, learn about private land as well. Thank you so much for joining us. And, really quickly, for those that maybe just be listening to the audio, where can we find you? What's your website?
www.arizonaeaglemining.com. So lots of stuff there, presentations,
Perfect.
press releases, videos like this where I talk about the project. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Nice seeing you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.